by the end of the day yesterday, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just burnt. But it's also rewarding at the same time because it's progress. This is good. I'm made for this. A friend of mine saw a picture of me the other day and he's like, wow, you put on some muscle. Like you've always been in good shape, but you can tell that I can't believe it's been since 2020. There's not the number on the scale. If I do want to be more mindful of that, it's that switch.
All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fit Vegan Podcast. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest, a Fit Vegan superstar, an original Fit Vegan superstar, because I just looked at when her account was created, which was November 21st, 2020. All right. Welcome to the Fit Vegan Podcast. I'm your show host, Maxime Sigouin, and I'm the founder and CEO of Fit Vegan Coaching, a company that is on a mission to help 10,000 people get lean, thrive, and reduce their risk of chronic illnesses by 2033 and 1 million by 2050. I believe that having a fit, healthy body and mind is the foundation to living an incredible life, and this is what we'll show will give you if you choose to listen and implement. Enjoy the episode and have a great day. So 4 years ago that Tish and I met, we had the opportunity to meet in person a few times since then, but very excited for this recording because it's also us catching up as friends at the same time, which we already, talked a little
Sort
bit
of did,
before
yeah.
pre-recording. But
Yeah.
yeah, Tish, welcome back to the show. I think it's your second episode that we record, or third.
No, I did a couple of interviews. No, sorry, I did a couple of live, not live, but pre-recorded. What do I think about testimonials?
Oh yes, yeah,
I did a
yeah.
couple of testimonials, and I know those were used, which is great. But I just, as I said a few minutes ago, I just can't get away from it. So it's 2020 seems like just yesterday because I remember exactly where I was when I had the conversation
You were
with
in a
you.
coffee shop.
Yeah, I was in a
Yeah,
Starbucks in Vancouver.
I
And
remember
I remember
that.
you just calling me out on what is your deal? Like, really? If you're not going to do it now, what's the difference in a year from now or 2 months from now? And I'm like, yep.
Yeah, I remember
So
that conversation. I remember you were in a coffee shop too.
yeah, I totally remember that. And I just remember being like, yeah, okay, I need, 12 hours to think about this. And I don't even think I took that. And I'm glad I
Yeah,
didn't because it
yeah.
was right off the bat, it was just jumping into the water and it was. Yeah, it's been history ever since, I guess, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So,
again, you had an incredible transformation your first time kind of coming in. And so, it came back. Now you're part of the alumni program. And so I wanted to have you on because a lot of people that are, that are in the program are wondering what is life like outside of the program. People that are not in the program are wondering, like, if I do this thing, what does that look like after? And so I know that you've learned a lot of tools along the way. You've gone through a lot of ups and downs. You've learned to navigate different types of situation. And so, yeah, do you mind kind of just walking us through, your fit vegan journey from, if you want to, from 2020, what it was like during the program, after, if there was ups and downs, how did you handle them?
yeah, I mean, I think I don't remember how I found you, but I remember being
It
very
was
purposeful.
Instagram
Was it
because I,
Instagram?
I I was just using Instagram at that time. Yeah.
Oh, were you? Okay, well,
Oh
I'm
no, it
glad
was
you
like
remember.
Matt. I think it was Matt Nagra or something like that. But I was off of Instagram for sure.
Okay, all right. Then your memory's good, better that than mine is. But I remember I stumbled on it, and I remember thinking, okay, I need some help because I need to get this thought process under control because like you, I'd been racing for years, like half Ironmans, marathons, whatever. Like that was my life, and that was where I was like, okay, this is where I can control my body structure and my endurance and my cardio, and this is what I want to do. And I remember just feeling completely lethargic and just totally not with it, just not performing like how I used to. And I was like, well, I'm not going to put that down to age. But when I saw whatever it was on Instagram, I was like, yeah, okay, you're an Iron Man. You get it. You get what that is supposed to be with respect to training and
Hmm.
sort of how the body's supposed to morph. And I think that's what sort of initially hooked me was that okay, that's one thing that a lot of trainers don't get is what that kind of journey is being an Iron Man. And then the more I spoke to you, the more it kind of made sense to me. And when I pulled the trigger, it was really intimidating at first. Like it was super intimidating. So I'm like, damn, I'm like, I've never cooked with just this kind of stuff before. And
Yeah.
then I think over the course of like that year, it really started to shine through. I mean, not only in the body change and stuff, but my energy came back and my thought process and how I look at food and treat exercise completely changed as well. I mean, I remember one conversation with you. I was on a treadmill and I was in Edmonton and it was 9:30 at night and we had a call and you were like, "Why are you on the treadmill at 9:30 at night? Don't try and make up for a workout that you couldn't make." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I got to do it." And I'm like, "No, you need to take a break." And, still to this day, I'm still pretty stubborn with respect to my workouts, um, and I do more than I should, but it's been an amazing transformation. And I think even outside of the program, I had like my body did change and it continues to change. And even in the alumni program, I still feel as supported, if not more supported, because I know the process and I know what you, as you say, what your blueprint is. I know
Yeah.
what that is. It's like building a house, which is what I do. It's architecture and construction. I know what that's supposed to look like. And you can make different variations of what that blueprint is supposed to look like within those parameters, but still be as successful on your own in the alumni program, but you're never not alone. So
Yeah.
I know that I can always reach out on the app and I can always either get you or I can get Sarah or I can see people making different sort of comments about, "Hey, what about this?" or "Hey, I'm struggling with this." And even though I don't chime in as much as I do, I still watch it.
Yeah.
I put a thought in there sometimes and it's like, yeah, okay, this is the community that I still love being a part of. And that's not just saying that. That's legitimate. I love being a part of this group. It's something that keeps me my glue holding together. Everything else in my world is chaos and crazy, but this is the one constant that I know that I always look to every day and I'm like, okay, where do I go now? What am I doing today? How much time
Yeah.
do I need to be at the gym? Kind of thing.
Yeah, and honestly, it's been such a pleasure working with you. And I do remember, we I think we had a few phone calls about like less workouts, less cardio. You can rest this week. You don't need to do anything. Yeah, we had a. I remember. Yeah, I remember a few of them. I was in Vancouver when I was already living in LA that first time, and I was like, Tish,
Hmm. You gotta
stop working
stop
out,
this.
do less.
I'm
Um,
gonna, yeah. But I
yeah, so
use it, I mean, I use it as like, I mean, I'm like just you and I are always transparent, but I'm going through a really messy divorce. Like my work is crazy. I've got two young kids, I've got two dogs, and it's just, I'm up at 5 in the morning and it's just go until like 9 o'clock at night.
yeah,
And as I said, it's this is a constant for me. If I know I have to be at the gym, I have to be at the gym. But I think one thing that I've learned from being in the program initially and then learning more from you and from Sarah, sort of everything afterwards, is giving myself a little bit more forgiveness if I'm not able to make the gym one
yeah,
day. Or I'm like, okay, I can't make it today, but can I move it to one of my rest days because I'm going to just take my rest day today and I'm going to be really purposeful about taking my rest day today. And then I shift that mindset. But I'm also more forgiving of myself because of the way I've sort of been, I guess, coached or trained by you guys to be, as I said, a little bit more forgiving if I don't make it for the
hmm
workout and the gym, which is okay sometimes, but you put in
yeah.
what you
Which
get out of it, right? But
that's amazing to hear because Tish 4 years ago wouldn't have said
I,
that.
I know. I said to somebody yesterday, I've calmed down in the way I sort of react to things lately, and I try not to be as hard on myself and as stubborn and stuff. But being completely honest with you, I was at the gym at lunch today, and a friend of mine has convinced me to run another half Ironman, and I have to run tonight. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna have to run tonight as well, but I know
Yeah,
that's against the rules, but it's like you make an allowance for it and it's it helps with the stress and it helps with the anxiety and it helps with the sleep. And as I said, it's
yeah,
a constant and it's I won't call it a crutch. It's more family, to be honest with you. It really
yeah.
is. So
Yeah. Well, again, it's the idea of perfection versus progression, right? And so you've made a lot of progress in the area of like not being as reactive when it comes to the workouts and
yeah.
being able to kind of manage that better and allowing yourself to have that grace. And so, hey, like I say, we'll take that win, right? That progression, that direction is huge because, yeah, I can't even imagine how tired. and like drained you would have been if you continued down the same path you were in when we first started. Like if you just kept going at it the way you were before,
Yeah.
like yeah, you would have been tired. You would have been like tired at this point.
I mean, I still am. I mean, my mom saw me yesterday and she's like, "Wow, you're exhausted." And I'm like, "Yeah." But the kids are really enthusiastic about riding their bikes to school when I have them. So that's a 5K ride. And then I have to
Yeah.
ride from there to work, which is another five, and then it's
It's a
okay, I got
warm
to
up.
ride. What's that?
It's a warm up, Tish.
And I know. Well, hang on. I do end up riding my bike to the gym at lunch, and then, but
Yeah,
the
yeah.
gym is like a kilometer away from here. So it's not like, there's a lot of hills in between if you remember Vancouver.
Yeah.
So by the end of the day yesterday, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just burnt. But it's also rewarding at the same time because it's progress, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I feel like this is good. I'm made for this. Like, and I saw a friend of mine saw a picture of me the other day, and he's like, wow, he's like, you've really put on some muscle. Like you're looking really great. And I'm like,
Yeah.
thanks. I'm like, is that a compliment? And he's like, no, it's like you've always been in good shape, but you can tell that you're putting the effort into it. Like, what are you
Yeah.
doing differently? And then I just started talking about this program, and I can't believe it's been since 2020. Like, that just, I didn't think it was that long, which is not
Yeah.
that long, but
Yeah. No,
so
and life has changed tremendously since then. But again, you've changed tremendously as well, because I was looking at some of your photos from like when you first came in, right? To say
yeah.
some of your newest sets of photo now. There's a massive difference in your
There
body
is.
composition.
Yeah, there is. And it's funny because you posted the other day sort of your a photo of you when you're like full on training, and then another one when you're outside of training. I can't remember what you
Oh,
sort
it
of.
was like when I came back, when I got kicked out and I moved back to Squamish when we met up.
Yeah.
Man, because I was in LA for the winter the previous year,
Yeah.
and so I had like nice weather for winter. So there was no gray or rain, and we got kicked out of the States. So we went to Squamish for winter. It was
Yeah.
gray and dark and rainy, and I got so depressed. And we just like, I was like, I'm not dieting, I'm just training. And then it was so stressful with moving back and forth that like I went
Yeah.
up to like 210, I think. So that was that before photo when I finally was able to like come back in here. I had ballooned up to 210.
Yeah, but it's amazing because I don't think I've taken photographs in the last few weeks because I've noticed that ballooning has happened a bit. But then when I look back and I think, okay, I look at my food diary and I'm like, okay, well, you have not been eating consistently like you're used to. You're not having the water that you normally have, and you've been moving stuff around, or and I travel so much for work. And I remember you saying
Yeah.
to me once, that travel weight can sometimes, that bloating can sometimes stay on you for like 2 days
Yeah.
afterwards. And it's amazing to see it. Like, it really is, because I'll get off the plane and it's just like, oh my gosh. And it is, it's there. It's brutal. But
Yeah.
I've just learned to be a little bit more forgiving.
Yeah.
Um, and a little bit more easy with myself, knowing that I have those tools that are just so ingrained right now, and they're not going anywhere. But if I wanted to sign back up for the full program, which once everything is calm in the new year, I'll actually probably do again because I want to see how it would be in a 2.0 version. Like, I'm that much older. And,
Yeah.
as we were just saying, like, I'm 46, and I'm having like those issues with getting older and body's changing, and I'm trying to resist it as much as possible. But I'm in a different stage in my life. It's not burnout from training. It's not
Yeah.
burnout from racing. It's burnout from, really bad divorce, two young kids, two dogs, a high demanding job, a lot of travel, and my age. And it's a whole different kind of situation. So what does that house, or what does that blueprint look like on the 2.0 version? Um,
Yeah.
and what kind of a journey is that going to be? Because as I said, I've still felt supported the entire way, even in the alumni program. It's
Yeah.
been the exact same support, but it's going to be interesting to see what that's like in the new
Yeah.
year. So,
Yeah. Program is different than the last time you were in the full program. Very different. Uh,
okay.
yeah. Again, we've been at it for 4.5 years now, so we've made a lot of cool tweaks to it.
Yeah.
But One thing you're mentioning, in the past 2 weeks, you can kind of feel that you're getting a bit more bloated and all that.
Mhm.
Um, I'm telling this for you to know as like a coaching moment, but also for people that are going to be listening to this. The whole point is not to be perfect always, all the time. I mean, you're just going to feel lean and tight all the time. I don't feel lean and light all the time. I had a pretty massive smoothie bowl for lunch today, and I don't feel lean and tight right now. So,
Yes.
but the whole point is that you've been at this long enough now that the hope with everything is that your standards change, so that if you get to that level of fitness and leanness that you were at the end of the program, if you go up 5 to 10, 5 to 10 pounds from there, as an example, that you're like, I need to catch myself, I need to get back on track, and
Mhm.
then you get back on track, versus allowing yourself to kind of put on 20, 30 pounds before you go, like, I should probably tighten up my nutrition and my training. It's like your
Mhm.
standards change, so you don't let yourself go as far, so you don't have as far to kind of recover from. And I think that's the whole game as you progress. Is if I put on like 2, 3 pounds, like, I can see it, I can feel it, I catch myself, I tighten up the nutrition, done. Like, I won't go back to being like 240 like I was before, right?
No, and I think when I started, I was 165 or 170, something like that. And I don't think I think the lowest I got was 137 or 135, and I haven't
Hmm.
gone above really 142 since
Yeah,
then. And
yeah,
I know there's some days where it's like inching into the 145, and I'm like, okay, what am I know I had a lot of salt yesterday. I know I haven't had a lot of water. I know I've been overtraining. And it's like, okay, just where's that switch? Because I know that switch is there. You just have to
yeah,
find it and be super cognizant of it, which I think is sort of the bigger lesson in this for me, is that it's taken, 4 years or almost 5 years to find that switch and be able to switch it on and off and know that when you do switch it back on, it's going to take like a month or maybe
yeah,
6 weeks to bring that back around. But you're working back towards the goal of, you know, bringing your food back into it, and just because that's the main thing for me. It's not the fitness. It's
yeah,
not the fitness side, it's the food side.
yeah.
It's
I was saying, do you feel like you have more peace with the number on the scale compared to before, where you see it, you're like, oh, well, like you said, I understand that I've been flying, I ate more salt, I've been overtraining. So you kind of mentally understand that, like, the weight might be spiking up because of these things. And so do you beat yourself less over the weight spiking because you have a greater understanding of it at this point?
definitely a lot less. I mean, because I know that I'm the one responsible for that fluctuation. I know
Yeah.
I'm the one that, has not counted the macros with my chips, or not counted my macros at all, because frankly, I don't like, if my kids say, "Hey, mommy, can you come and sit with us on the couch for a bit?" Rather than entering my macros, I'm going to be like, you know what? Yes, that's what I'm going to do. And
And
that's
that's
where,
the right
again,
thing to do.
100%, right? Especially in
Yeah.
this kind of transition. And I think that's where sort of that blueprint and that thought process of the blueprint is the key for me, is that I know that the structure's there. So I allow myself to be able to pull away from doing my macros, or having that flexibility around it, knowing that I know I'm the cause of this fluctuation and where it's coming from.
Yeah.
So I'm not as hard on myself. I'm still very cognizant of it, because I still want to get back down to that 137 or 135. But I know that the main factor is me needing to be precise about where I focus that attention to be able to fit everything into it, including the kids. So if it's
Yeah.
not counting my macros, it's being really purposeful in the foods that I eat on a certain day, knowing that it's more protein or it's more fat or whatever, based on the numbers that I'm working with.
Yeah. And I think one thing is also, like, maybe you've already come to that realization, or you're like on the verge of just getting there. But there's, again, we're just throwing out numbers out there. I understand that 137, 142 for certain people, that's like overweight. For some people, it's severely underweight, right? It's all relative to height and body type. So, and we're just throwing numbers out for Tish.
Oh
But
yeah.
let's just say 137, you're like, I like to get back to there and I feel super lean. but 142 is that number where you don't have to like obsess so much about food, that allows you to eat chips with your kids on the couch, and it kind of gives you more of that freedom to kind of enjoy the present moment. Like at least I've come to that place where I'd rather be 142 than 137. Like the
It's a
137
lot of
sounds
work.
great.
It's a lot of work
It
to be that
is.
lean. It's a lot of work to be that lean. But then when I look
Yeah.
at the measurements, like when I do my measurements every week, because I'll always do my measurements,
Yeah.
photographs not so much on how I
I know.
feel.
I see your profile. I see when your last photos were updated.
I know, and I'm like, no, we're not doing a photograph today. But when I look at the measurements, like my waist, for instance, I think it was at like 29 or 30 or 32 or something like that, way back
Yeah.
in the day when I was my heaviest. And now it's between 25 and 26. And I'm like,
Yeah.
huh, that makes a difference. And I think that that's
Of
one thing that
course.
you guys really instilled in me is that it's not the number on the scale. Do you see differences in how your body type is changing? How are your clothes fitting? And
Yeah.
that's still hard for me these days because of like I'm on hormone replacement therapy now, and it's like, okay, this stuff messes with you. Like it
Yeah.
really messes with you because you're trying to fix all the stuff that you don't want to have when you're going into menopause.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well your weight goes up, or you know, you're it's just so many different things, but you have to be ready for that. And
Yeah.
so even though the number on the scale says like 145, I'll do my measurements and I'm like, okay, you know, my forearm is, or my quads have gone up in size or something like that. They've gone down and my waist has gone down, but my shoulders have gone up. It's like, okay, well, things are still moving in the direction that I wanted to, but I may not be like traditionally lean, but
Well, I
I'm
would
in
debate
great
that.
shape.
You're probably leaner than like 98 to 99% of the world. Remember, like over 70% or 50 to 70% of Americans are overweight. They're classified as overweight. So like the standard for what lean is, the bars, I think it's pretty accessible for you're
Yeah,
definitely on the lean side.
but as you know, I mean, I saw my doctor the other day in person when we were talking about all these hormones and HRT stuff, and she's
Yeah.
like, "You do look good." She's like, "We are
Yeah.
the same age," and I'm
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, I know." I'm like, "But it's not that from like a year ago." And she goes, "No, but this is maybe your like this is your sweet spot. You know, you
Yeah.
were over medicating with your thyroid medication a year and a half ago, and I've taken this time to like put that in the right alignment." She goes, "This
Yeah.
is your new normal. Like, this is where you're supposed to be, and you will need to be comfortable here." And I'm like, okay, that's a bit of a reality check, but that's, again, it goes back to eating and it goes back purposeful eating and intentional eating. And if I do want to be more mindful of that, it's that switch.
Yeah.
It's a
And
total switch. I mean, it's the whole saying of, you know, life is a marathon, not a sprint. And this is a
yeah.
long marathon.
Well,
So,
it's not even that it's a marathon. It's that it's used to define the speed, right? Because you know you can't sprint
yeah,
them. Like sprinting 100 meters, you can't maintain that for a marathon.
right.
It's not even that life is a marathon. Life is just a race that there's no finish line. So it's not even like you run and then you hope to eventually get there one day. Is you just run and there's no end to it.
Yeah.
And so it's like if I'm gonna run forever, shit, there might be moments where I'm gonna walk. There might be moments where I'm just gonna sit down and not do nutrition and training because I gotta walk forever, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
And so
I'm walking a little bit right now. It's like a really slow run, but you know.
that's okay. And hey, there's moments where you're gonna sit down and just like, you know what? I'm not gonna work out this week or for a month in nutrition. Like life's busy. I have to focus on other priorities. And then just after that, you'd be like, you know what? I can get back up. I can start walking again. I can start jogging again. You know what? I feel good. I'm gonna sprint now. And you sprint, and you know, eventually, you know, glycogen gets empty, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna jog right now. I'm
Yeah.
gonna pace myself. But I feel like it's this constant fluctuation between you know, walking, sprinting, running, sitting down.
Yeah.
And that represents kind of the ebbs and flows of, you know, trying to stay fit and healthy. And I was recording prior to our podcast with Greg. He's the founder of Fruitive, which is a restaurant in Washington, D.C.
Hmm.
If ever you have a chance to go there, it's really good.
I haven't been
but
to Washington
we
in years, but yeah.
yeah, dude, great food. Best restaurant I found there that was actually like clean.
Nice.
Um, and we went down this really big rabbit hole of mindset. But he said patience is just the acceptance of the moment. So like if I'm sitting in traffic
Hmm.
and I have to be somewhere in 10 minutes and it's back to back, like me honking and being stressed won't change anything. Like I found that if I accept the moment that like I'm in traffic, I can't do anything about it. I just have so much more peace, and then I get there whenever I get there, right? Because there's moments where you can do something about it and moments you can't do. So that patience is the acceptance of the moment. I was like, that's such a beautiful way
That
to put
is,
it.
yeah, and it really speaks true when you actually do dive in and you think about that, because it's what I said a few minutes ago. I've found that I've calmed down, I guess, over the last few years and maybe last year or two.
It's
Um,
acceptance.
it's acceptance. But I was talking with a colleague the other day and I said, typically I would have like just responded back right away. And I just would have been like this hyper vigilant sort of gotta fix it. And screw you. I'm going to tell you, yeah, and just
Yeah,
really get upset with it, especially in this whole process of going through this divorce and being super reactionary on that. And these days I've sort of looked at something that will trigger me and I'm like, nope, I'm just I'm just not going to answer right now, and I'm just going to be really quiet, and I'm just going to sit in that because there's nothing I can do about your response. There's nothing I can do about the
yeah,
fact that I just got off an 8-hour plane and I stand on the scale and I know I feel yucky and I stand on the scale and it's like, oh God, like it's nothing I can control other than
yeah,
to drink water, exercise, sleep well, and do what I know is the right thing to do in order to rectify that. So
yeah.
I don't think I get as reactionary or I'm as hard on myself as I used to be. Maybe that's maturity. I don't know. But
That's what I was gonna say. That sounds like maturity to me.
I'm still a child. I'm still a Peter Pan, but it's 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 accepting that making that extra sort of stress and anxiety like come into your life is just isn't necessary anymore. I'd rather sort of go back to my binder of recipes and be like, okay, I'm kind of sick with, these recipes I've been looking at for like 2 months. I'm going to find new ones and I'm going to like cut and paste and I'm going to make new ones that I know are within the same realm of what I want to do in terms of caloric intake. And that I
Yeah,
can control. But the other stuff is just, you're right. It's like just, you got to sit with it.
yeah,
It's really different. It's really
yeah.
different to just sit with it. So,
Yeah. Well, I'm super proud of you because it's a big shift in like in how you approach things compared to when we first met. And as a little tip, I never step on a scale up to 2 3 days after I got off of a flight. I just don't because I know it's gonna be high and it's I can't do anything about it. Or if I have like salty food or whatever, I just it's going to be high. I can't do anything about it. So I don't really care to know for it.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, same thing for work. Like we have a support email now. So, and I have someone scanning my email. So anything that's support related gets sent to support for the support team to answer. Right. If they
Oh,
need me, they'll come to me, but
yeah.
I'm not going to be the first one looking at it. Like I have a team that I pay to do that. So I
Mm.
don't have to do the support
Yeah,
because
well, yeah.
it's not the most fun sometimes. So I have a
No,
team
and
for it.
you internalize a lot of it, I'm sure, which then sort of
Hmm.
triggers perhaps your level of sort of, oh my gosh, I want to help somebody. I want to feel empathetic, but now I'm taking this stress on, and it's like, okay, well, that doesn't do any good for your own
Yeah.
personal demeanor either. I
Yeah,
find
that
that
YouTube comments. Being
it's
online is rough. I got
horrible.
told I look like a skinny crackhead a few times on some
Oh,
videos.
lovely. Hey, you know what? I'm sure we've all been called worse, right? I know I've
Yeah,
been called a few names in my life. But I
yeah.
mean, I find that like my mom, it's interesting because I thought of you lately, but I don't know why this, but my mom has three arteries that are clogged in her heart, and she's
Mm,
almost 80. She hasn't really ever been physically active, and she had a like 120 pound or 180 pound dog before recently, and we had to put him down. And now she's got this little Chihuahua mix thing, but she has no excuse not to do exercise now. And I'm
yeah,
like, look, you've got four raincoats and three different types of of Wellington boots, you have no reason to not walk in the rain in Vancouver. So one, suck it up. Two, you've got a small dog. Three, you've got three clogged arteries. Two of them are at 70% clogged. And
Yeah.
it's interesting because the doctor said, don't worry about it for now. Improve your diet. Don't be crazy about stuff that you do and exercise. So I photocopied a bunch of the recipes that I have from you guys. And
Yeah.
she's like, but I don't want to be vegan. I'm like, but that's okay. I'm like, but this is a nice sort of thing for you to guide yourself on. I said, but one of the things I said that one of the things I learned from Maxime and you guys was sodium. You look at sodium on anything that's packaged,
Yeah.
anything, and it's
That's crazy.
insane how much sodium is in things. And I was like, Mommy, just when you go to the grocery store and you pick something up and it's like something that you really want, it's on your grocery list, something you eat quite a bit of, and if it's packaged, look just look at the sodium. And she called me and she's like, this is crazy. She's like, how
Yeah.
do you get away from it? And I'm like, you don't. You just eat clean.
Yeah. Eat whole food.
And I said, it's not the word vegan that you have to stick on. It's the whole food. It's the making
Yeah.
things from scratch, taking a tomato and making it into tomato sauce yourself, as opposed to
Yeah.
grabbing that bottle. And so when I have the kids, everything is made from scratch. Everything. It's like tomato sauce, like, and they still eat meat. They're growing kids. I don't expect them to sort of follow what I do, but everything is like the smoothies I make for them.
Yeah.
Hemp hearts go in there, chia seeds go in there. I made a lasagna for them the other day and I put kidney beans, chickpeas, and black beans in it. And the kids are like, "What's this?" And I'm like, "Don't worry about it." And they loved it. They
Yeah.
absolutely loved it. I didn't eat it because it had meat and sort of other things in it, but they loved it. They didn't know any different.
Yeah.
But it's eating whole. And I find that sometimes when they've not been with me for a certain amount of time, they will come back and their complexion will not be as bright, or they'll look kind of lethargic to a certain degree. And
Yeah.
it's my daughter Olivia, who's almost 7, be like, yeah, my stomach really hurts. And I'll get their dad to do a food diary, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I can sort of maybe see where that's coming from, because it's stuff that's not whole foods. And that was
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest challenges for me when I said to you initially was, I've tried to be vegetarian and it doesn't work because I don't know how to cook.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, you get the recipes, and you get the portions, and you get all this. And that's where the lack of knowledge was. And now that's routine. That's like riding a bike for me. But to show
Yeah.
somebody else, it's like a foreign language. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, it seems like it had obviously a broader impact than just you, right? And obviously being able to educate your mom on that is amazing. And I feel you on the aspect of, I feel like people get so tied up on the word vegan because they're gonna eat a
Yeah.
vegan meal. They feel like they have to commit their lifetime to being vegan. I was like, you can just eat the food and then eat chicken after if you want to, but at least that one meal, you're kind of learning and easing into it. Um, no, that's awesome. I'm really happy that you passed that on to your mom. And I feel, you know, I don't know if you noticed in the group and for the program, like when we first started, we had a bunch of like 30 to like 45-year olds in the program, but now it's more 50 to 80. And so a lot of our members that were in their 30s and their 40s that were helping their parents because they had clogged arteries, they were getting
Hmm.
sick or whatever. And I was like, do you feel frustrated that your parents are not eating healthy? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, if you don't change, your kids are going to feel the same way about you, right? Like how
Yeah.
frustrated you are is how they're going to feel about you. So yeah, I'm really happy that it's become second nature and you're able to kind of spread that message, right? And kind of have that impact. Um, as a side note, I don't know if I heard this correctly. Did you say your mom had a dog that was 180 pounds?
Yeah, he was a Rottweiler mixed with a German Shepherd. He
Oh,
was
that's my
huge.
weight. That's crazy.
Yeah, so she wasn't able to control him. So
I
You remember my
understandably.
parents? Do you remember my parents were on they were on 200 acres in Ontario, just between Ottawa and King, like Smith Falls and Perth area, sort of in Ontario.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So after my dad passed away, she had the dog, she had the cat, but she literally sold the farm. And then
Mm,
she drove from Ontario to BC with the dog and the cat, but she couldn't walk the dog. This dog
yeah.
was like the biggest, like, softie. But
Yeah.
if you walked it down the street and it saw a butterfly or another dog, grab a tree because you'd get like dragged.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she could never walk him. And I'd be like,
I
okay,
don't think
well,
I could walk him. That's
no, like I would really have to hold tight whenever I took him out, but I knew how to do it. But there was no way she would have just broken a hip and just been done.
yeah.
And so when he passed away recently, which was hard for her because it was her last sort of connection to daddy, to the farm, to all of that, like the
Yeah.
last sort of 13 years, she was like, "Well, now what?" And I'm like, "Well, let's get you a new dog." And she's like, "Well, I want a small dog, like my pup, my black pug Sophie." She's like, want a small dog." So we found her. It's a Chihuahua mixed with, oh my gosh, a Dachshund mixed with an Australian Healer. So it's half the size of Tempe. She's like 18
Okay.
pounds. But you can walk her easily. She's very well behaved, but she came from Iran, and my mom's like, "Oh my God, this is like a totally different world." And I'm
Yeah.
like, so text messages now with my mom are, "How many steps have you done today?" And she's like, "Oh, I've only done 8,900." I'm like, "Get walking," because I'm trying to get
Yeah.
her up to doing at least 10,000 steps a day.
Yeah.
And I had a streak of like 56 days. And then I took her to the Yukon for a couple days for like an adventure. And there was one day that I was so exhausted from seeing the Northern Lights the night before, that I didn't get my 10,000 steps in. So I broke the streak and I
Yeah.
was so pissed off. And now I'm back on another streak. But she was like, "Why 10,000?" I'm like, "I don't know." I'm like, "It just seems like a nice round number." And I'm like, "So," I said, "You don't have an excuse. You have Zoe. She's 18 pounds. You can walk her." So
Yeah.
she now goes and takes Zoe out for at least an hour every day, 3 times a day. And
Yeah.
I'm like, "This is great." And she's like, "Well, it's raining out." And I'm like, "Uh-huh."
That's Vancouver. That's gonna be 7 months out of
So
the year.
what color combination are you going to do with your outfit now while you're walking, around your neighborhood? Like there is no excuse. So start doing something, different.
Yeah.
You need to change
And
the lifestyle.
yeah, and I think it helps. So just you leading by example, with training and nutrition and kind of living that life too. Um, I would love to go back to your first post program. So when you got out of the program, how was it navigating kind of, being on your own at that point? Kind of like having less accountability and kind of having maybe a slightly different structure.
Like before I got into the alumni program the first time,
Yeah.
it was hard. It was hard. I mean, I used to drink a lot. I used to smoke, and I don't smoke anymore at all. I haven't for many, many years, but it was that initial sort of cut of the umbilical cord that I'm like, okay, I got this. Like,
Yeah.
I've got my binder of recipes. I know my macros. I know, like, I got each stage. I know how to cut. I know how to rebuild. But I was lost. I was legitimately lost for a bit, and I wasn't sort of honest with myself, I don't think, for the first few months. And
Yeah.
then I was like, no, no, I'm like, I can do this. I can do this. And then I was like, no, I actually don't. I miss this.
Yeah.
I don't really want to do this on my own. But I know I don't need the full program right now. So how can I do this? And I think that's when I either reached out to you or Sarah, pardon me, and I said, what can I do? And you're like, "Oh, well, there's an alumni program." I'm like, huh, all
Yeah. I think we
right,
just launched it around that
I think
time.
you just did. And I was like, huh, okay. I'm like, what does this look like? So I still very much have the accountability of the weekly check-ins. And there's
Yeah.
still that nagging voice in the back of my head. It's like, if I don't do it, I'm like, oh, God, gotta do my check-in every week at least. But yeah, it was a tough adjustment. It was a really tough adjustment. But I don't think it was so much from the, no, it was a tough adjustment. It really was. And I don't get food plans from you guys now.
Yeah.
I do get the workouts, but those workouts for me are in addition to like the CrossFit and the running and all the other stuff that I do. And that's why I think I'm maybe not so hard on myself, is that I think for me the most important thing is the eating. And as long as I have that mindset and thought process under control,
Hmm.
um, I'm okay. But I legitimately miss the community. So the alumni program for me, and this is the second time I've done it, is ideal because
Yeah.
I still have a lifeline to you guys when I need it. And I still can talk to people for sure when I need it. And I can still read everybody's comments and all that kind of stuff. But it was legitimately tough. It took a few months to really sort of get into it. But I mean, I don't think you had the alumni program when I finished the first time I
No,
did it.
no. It came out a bit after. Actually, honestly, I probably came out like a week after you, like before you asked.
Yeah.
And it's I think that the community aspect is so important because a lot of people are in a situation where two situations where they're like you, they're super busy. And it's not like they're going to go and find the time to kind of go and find all those other communities of people that are vegan, that are like on this lifestyle, right? Fitness community, it's a little bit easier to kind of do, but that vegan and people that are oriented in that mindset, that's
Hmm.
harder to do in terms of sustainability and whole food plant based and kind of that specific lifestyle that we're preaching and that we're living. And I'll be honest, some people think it's weird to have a coach for that long. I've been told that. I've had coaches for 19 years straight,
I
right?
had a
Even
coach before.
as a coach.
Yeah, I had a coach
Yeah.
before you, and it was totally different.
Yeah, I just like to not think about it. I just like to out because I'm so
Hmm.
busy with you guys and Fit Vegan coaching that I'm like, I just want, right now it's Coach Nick who works for us now. So it's great that I got to hire one of my best friends. But yeah, Coach Nick takes care of my workout. So I just, hey, you do it. I'm not gonna question anything. Here's what I want to do, just build it. All right. Obviously I could build it, but it's kind of like you said, that post program is like you have access to your old workouts, but
Hmm.
if you were to build your own workout, I don't know for you, but to me that's a challenging part because if I build it, I can change it. If I
Hmm.
build a meal plan, I can also change it. And a
Hmm.
lot of times I will change it.
Hmm.
So I just want someone else to do it. I'm not going to touch shit. I'm just going to honor it and do it. And then that's it.
But this is why I think like in the new year when it's going to be like 2.0 for the program, like the full program, the second time, it's going to be really interesting how that's going to look because
Yeah.
I am that much more knowledgeable. I am really comfortable in where I am with respect to whole food eating. And again, you said, it's that word vegan that people are like, ugh, it's like
Yeah.
a swear word, and people's, oh, vegan, yeah, you can't eat anything. But being celiac, like legitimately celiac and vegan,
Yeah.
that's hard. That is
Yeah.
super hard. And so I think it's going to be interesting with all the changes that I've had, sort of body wise, in terms of hormones and age and all the other stresses that have contributed over the last couple of years. Literally, that probably the last couple of years more so. It's going to be really neat to see how that program is going to be different, I think, for me, the second full-time round. Because I'm excited to do it. Like I'm like that's my date. That's like I'm doing it in January and I'm going to sign up for it in December. And that's sort of part of the goal setting that you guys have always taught us, is have these goals that you're reaching for yourself, and know that you can set yourself up for that success, but plan ahead for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where that second journey goes to, well, if you guys will have me back. I don't know. I'm pretty high
Of
maintenance
course.
then.
No, we love working with you. No,
But
again, we've hung out a bunch of times. It's a different chapter. The body's different.
yeah.
Because again, we've been working with women in their 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s. A big thing in terms of uh the whole process is just even more kindness to yourself.
Yeah.
Because again, as women are coming in their 50s and 60s and 70s, they've struggled for a long time. And again, you have an advantage because your mindset is already, primed to do this because you've been in the blueprint for this
Mm.
long, right? Like you understand our world. But for people that have struggled with their weight for a really long time that haven't had any success, it's like we have to break that cycle of defeat that they don't believe that they can do it. Right. So yeah, just more kindness to yourself. And I'm gonna say something and I'm gonna bring up a story for it, which is trust the process, right?
Yeah.
And I know you have a big story because I actually bring up your story from time to time with members that are having a harder time with their weight loss.
Mhm.
And I'm like, we had this member, Tish, and she was in her calorie deficit. She was doing her workouts, doing a little bit too much workout, but she was doing her workouts and she was sticking to the plan. And her weight didn't really budge for like the first like 5 months or something.
Yep. And I remember
Yeah,
you being so confused and you were like, what the heck can we do? We can't bring you down anymore in your calorie deficit because it's not right. You
yeah.
can't
So it's like let's just
survive off of 1400 calories. Like we can't do that.
so just stick to it, and then we freaking beat it into
Oh,
your body because again, there's a natural path as to how transformation takes place,
yeah.
and then there's like off situations that happen differently that you just have to deal with it in the moment. But your weight was not budging, even with the calorie deficit, even with the training. And I was like, man, we just need to like beat the deficit into her basically. So I was like,
Yeah.
just stick to it. And eventually your body just like snapped and it dropped a
Yeah.
whole bunch of weight in 1 month. And then you
Yeah.
start to lose from there. And I feel like we've seen maybe a few more situations like that since then. And all the situations have been similar to yours where they had like a really higher stress lifestyle, and it just took a while for the body to kind of let go of it. It was just like let's just release, right? Or they had a previous history of like yo-yo dieting, so trying to lose weight, putting it back on, trying to lose weight, put it back on, and the body was just holding on. And it's like, oh, there she goes, trying to lose, like trying to be in a calorie deficit again, and the body just held on. But for you, you stayed consistent with it, and then it just like snap 1 month, everything shifted, you just lost, and then yeah, your end photo, you had some abs coming in. Yeah, it was you look like an athlete.
But I remember that. I remember a few different calls in a row, probably for a good 2 months, where I was just in absolute tears. I was just, oh my God, my life is over. This isn't working for me. What
Yeah,
am I doing wrong? And it was really affecting my thought process and like, can I do this? Like I've done all these races. And
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I think my heaviest when I was a kid, I was 175. And at
yeah,
5'6", that's pretty heavy. And there was no mud, not really any muscle at that point. I mean, it was athletic, but I wasn't what I was now.
yeah,
And yeah, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing everything right and nothing's moving. Like what else do I need to do to make this work? But yeah, you just kept saying like stick with it. I know it's frustrating, stick with it. Like you got this. It'll turn. Just trust me, it'll turn. And we did everything. It was yeah.
how did it feel that month when everything like shifted?
I think once when you sort of pointed out to me, you were like, look, like just Tish, it's changed. Like you just look at a photo from when you started to a photo to now. Just look at the photos. Don't look at the stats. Look at the photos. And I remember looking at the photos and I was like, damn, okay, you're right. Yeah, it's it's changed. It's really changed.
Yeah, and you talked about measurements earlier, right? So the weight could remain the same, but your body composition could still shift. And
Hmm.
even while like from month 1 to month 5 and your weight didn't budge too much, there was a difference in your photo.
Yeah, there
Right?
was.
Like your body composition was shifting. And then it's like that 1 month that everything dropped, then obviously there was a bigger significant difference in your
Hmm.
photos. And then at the end of it, there was like a large difference from
Hmm.
your first one. Right.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, body composition is tricky. It's people want to see the number on the scale drop all the time, every day, consistently, and never come back up. But you know, salt, flight, stress, shorter night of sleep, shit, you can sneeze too hard and probably gain a pound one day. Like the body's so sensitive when it comes to weight. But yeah, like you said, the clothes fit different, the measurements change. Like that's a shift in body composition.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, when there's been like 2 or 3 weeks where I've had the kids and we've cycled to and from school every day,
Yeah.
I'll notice at the end of the week that my body is a lot more puffy and a lot more sort of it feels the extra exercise because I'll do the though that cycling, but then I'll still do my fit vegan stuff. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, and it's like clockwork. I'll get a migraine for like 2 days and then I'll just be out for the count. And it's my body that's saying, hey, you've just done 3 weeks of this massive, it's not, you're not training for anything, but it's a lot of exercise and you're not giving your body any relief. I'm
Yeah.
now going to tell you how to do this. And so
Yeah.
now I think that's where the being more forgiving, and being a little bit more understanding of myself, even when I look at photographs from then to even like now, if I was to do one, for me, it's the measurements.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And ultimately,
it's the off the cuff remarks from people that I haven't seen in, or I see them every day at the gym or whatever, and they're like, wow, you're this is really paying off. Like you're doing a lot of hard work. Like good job. But
yeah.
I don't see it, but it's like, hey, thanks. Yeah, I feel really good about this. Like, thanks.
Yeah.
So,
It is a journey to have, and again, I say what I'm about to say, I say it in a respectful way because I struggle with that too. But self-love towards my body, of like
mm,
how I look, took me a really long time. And to be fair, like I'm still working towards that. I'm by no means perfect at that,
same.
but
Yeah.
it takes time to get to the place where you like, I look good, right? Like I don't know for you, but there's gonna be moments where I'll look back at photos where I was lean, but I felt fat. And now I see those photos and I was like, God damn, I was in shape. I'm going to go back to that. But I remember vividly in that time, I was like, oh, my stomach is like pudgy and blah, blah, blah. But it was so stupid because it was freaking skin, right? There was
Yeah.
not a lot of fat. But enough, I look back, I was like, I look great, right? But I remember in that moment, I was like, nah, I feel pudgy. I don't feel like I'm super lean and tight. And so I've been through so many cycles of that at this point that if I look back in a year from now and I look at now, I'll be like, I was in great shape.
Yeah.
Right. But right now I'm like, oh, but I'm not like when I was there. Right. So I'm now able to detach myself from that and be like, yeah, I look great then, but I felt like shit. Genuinely. Right. When you're too lean, life's not as enjoyable. I couldn't go out for like vegan ice cream with the IV, go to Hawaii for 2 weeks, don't have to worry about, training 5 days a week. You just go 3 times and you enjoy good restaurants. Like like I said, there's that line, right? There's that 142 that allows you to have
Hmm.
chips with your kids on the couch,
Yeah.
and there's that 137 where you have to be anal about your food, right? So it's
Hmm.
like which one you want. There's always that number for someone.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, it's a
exactly. And
wild ride.
ugh, it is, but I've felt like it's been totally worth it. And it's still a struggle. It's still a struggle to these days. Like the amount of energy or the lack of energy I have in the evenings now. Like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday nights and Saturdays are kid focused activities every single night.
Yeah,
And so, in the financial situation I'm in right now, where it's like very limited to no financial resources, the kids and the dogs get fed first. They get
yeah,
taken care of first. If I have grocery money, they get it. But with the training from you guys, it's like, okay, I know the staples of things that I need to have in the house that are plant-based, that are whole foods, that I know I can still get the same amount of nutrition, the same amount of caloric intake, but it's not maybe as hardy as it could have been like a year ago when I had more
yeah,
financial resources because I have to put the energy and onus on them. But there's some nights where I'm like, gosh, I'm like, I really don't want to cook tonight, but I force myself to do it. And when
yeah,
I don't do it, I'll admit, like whether it's timing, lack of, let's say, food for myself or lack of energy because it's the kids and the dogs. The kids will look at me and be like, You're not eating." And I'm like, "No, I'm okay." The next day, phew, I notice it. I do not have
yeah,
anything in the tank, which is why I
yeah,
think my thought process to just even something's better than nothing in terms of food, it's not ideal. It's not ideal at all. But you have to work with what you've got. And
yeah,
that's just a moment in time right now. But I mean, in Antigua, when we go for March break every year, we
yeah,
take Pierce off of his medication, and he's super hard to handle because it's like he's got a complete reset. I don't work out when I'm there, like as I would
yeah,
traditionally do. But every morning, they have to walk a mile with me and my mom in one direction. And before the end of the
Yeah.
day, they have to walk down the beach in the other direction for another mile. So I'm at least doing 2 miles a day for walking. So I give myself that permission to not be so hard on myself. But when I come back from Antigua, it's like rebuilding all again. It's like, wow, I've been here for, haven't worked out for 2 weeks. I haven't lifted a weight in 2 weeks, but it's like, all right, I was
Yeah.
doing 5 strict pull-ups like 3 weeks ago, and now I can barely do one. So just
Yeah.
suck it up and get it done.
Yeah. And I would say again, first of all, like this too shall pass, right? Which is, I know
100%.
we talked about
Yeah.
this because Jen passed away around the same time your dad passed away as well. So we've been through a lot of shit around the same time. But
Yeah.
yeah, the resources aspect, I get it. I got my paper from the last time I went to the food bank on my wall, like the April 8th, I think of 2020. um, and yeah, you do the best that you can with what you have in the moment, and it's not always the easiest. Like, oh, the food that was in the food bank is shit. I couldn't eat three-quarters of it because it wasn't vegan, so I get it. But again, I think that the key theme for you is just giving yourself grace,
Yeah.
right? And like being I get it because that's why I did Ironman when I was really stressed. Was like Ironman was my way of dealing with stress. Like
Yeah.
biking for 4 hours was the most mind numbing thing I could do to just not worry about anything. And that's why, to be fair, this year I was like, I'm gonna do a half Ironman this year, and I paid for the race this year. I paid for that. I paid for a half marathon. I paid for two Spartan. I paid for a few races. I
So you're
did none
committed.
of them. I did
Oh,
none of them. I dumped
really?
all of them. Yeah,
Wow.
because
Okay.
I started training for it, and then with business and everything were happening, I was getting so tired, and I was like, you know what? I was wondering why I had a hard time training for Ironman, and I was like, because I don't have the same stressor in my life as I did in that phase of my life, and I was like, my life is not as hard as it used to be. And it's like, so I don't feel the need to bike and swim that much. And so when I would go on the bike to bike for 3 hours or swim for 2 hours, I'd be like, this kind of sucks. I want to go play basketball or like spend time with Ivy or do something. And so like I couldn't get myself to train for a race, but it made me realize how much it was like my thing to cope with what was going on in my life at the time. And I'm so grateful that I did it, but I don't have another race in me. At least until I feel like it. But right now, like I don't have an Ironman in me. I don't have a marathon in me. I'm like, I'd rather do fun races with Ivy. We just discovered High Rocks, which I don't know if you ever heard of that.
No.
So it's kind of like CrossFit, but without the all the technical Olympic lifting. So it's
Yeah.
like yeah, so it's like rowing, sprinting, ball toss, lunges, the skier, assault bike, all that stuff. And
Yeah.
then you run a kilometer and you do a bunch of station. You do that 8 times.
Oy.
Um, yeah. So it's just more cardiovascular than like power strength base,
Yeah.
but something that fun that Ivy and I can do together, and I don't have to like train for it. But all that to say that, yeah, at least out of all the things to cope with stress, fitness is probably the best one that
Yeah, which
exists
is
out
what
there.
I like, that's my major crutch. And I think
Yeah.
that's like really where I'm putting a lot of emphasis on right now, which is what that's helping me the most. But again, I mean, increasing the water take like 100% because I am not as you sit there and drink water, and I haven't really had any of mine, but I'm still not the greatest at drinking water, but now every morning, as soon as I get up, I have a glass of cold water or room temperature water before I do anything else, as I'm like feffing around with the dogs and the kids. And that's the only thing I have first thing in the morning. And then I'll
Yeah.
make my breakfast, and then I'll have my coffee, and then you know what I mean? Whereas before it was wake up, coffee right away,
Yeah.
and it was or
Sound
and
like
then a
Ivy.
second coffee right away, and I'm like, I can't do that anymore. And there's shifts that have taken place, and again, I don't want to say it's maturity or age, but it's you recognize just being kinder to yourself. Like you don't have to sign up for a race and commit to a cost for a half Ironman, which is big these days.
Yeah.
um if you don't do it, okay, you don't do it. I haven't got
Yeah.
there yet, mind you. So for you to do that is really impressive. Like that's because a friend of
Dude,
mine is,
I spent like 2 grand of entrance fees that I just lost because I was like, if I pay for it, I'm gonna commit to it. And I was like, you know what, my mental health way more important than whatever that amount was, and so I ditched them. But it felt good to not do them. To be honest with you, I'm happy I didn't spend all that time training. I would have been so tired. Like just yeah,
but that's really interesting because I haven't, I was watching you do your cycling and I was watching you doing your runs because you were recording a lot of it and your swims and
yeah,
stuff. And now that I think back, I'm like, yeah, I haven't seen you sort of not do those in a while. But then I'm like, okay, maybe I just haven't been paying attention. But yeah, see, I don't think I'm there yet. I don't think I could sign up for a race and not do it because a friend of mine's trying to convince me to sign up for a half marathon, and I haven't done just a running race. Oh
yeah,
my gosh, in 5 years, 6 years
yeah,
for when I was training for the half irons. And
yeah.
I'm like, she's like, I've signed up, and I'm like, no, no, I'll just train when I
I would
can.
stick to no, Tish.
Well, I'm
I
intimidated by running now. It's weird. Like it's, I don't know what it is, but it's like, okay, this is part of me and this is part of my nature. And I don't
yeah,
want to be that tired anymore. I don't want to be tired like I was like 3 years ago. I mean, I'm
yeah,
tired now, but I think it's different reasons.
yeah.
Um,
I hate running, so there's just I've only done it because it was a part of the sport. So it's
yeah.
not like I like enjoyed running. But let me share this from my own just from my own experience because we kind of went through again similar things around the same time. Like when Jen passed, and then I moved to Mexico,
Mm,
and then ended up in LA, and then I met Ivy, and our whole story of like, living here, getting kicked out, going to Squamish or whatever. When we came back and I got married in January of this year, I pretty much got sick after I got married. And it just felt like the whole 5 years of caregiving for Jen,
mm,
that stress and that load, the stress and load of the grief and not letting go of a lot of it, not having stability, moving to Mexico, moving to LA, meeting Ivy, still kind of grieving and trying to start a new relationship, and then moving, getting kicked out, moving to Canada in the middle of winter, and then come back in Los Angeles, and then being in Los Angeles with no real stability. When I got married, like my brain was like, you're stable now. Like there's a stability for the first time in a very long time. And that's kind of like, when you work really, really hard every day for several hours and you go on vacation and you get sick. That's
yeah,
basically what happened to me after I got married. Like my body just like relaxed and let go. And
right.
that's why I couldn't get myself to do any races. So when you get that ready for that rest, like just be ready to rest because your body's gonna demand of it.
Yeah, no, and it totally will. And I think that's I don't think I've come to that point of I don't think I've hit that yet. I'm still in
Yeah.
that heightened, my dad died, the farm is sold. My mom lives out here. She's
Yeah.
got health issues. I'm going through all this other stuff. Work is crazy. I haven't hit that yet. I
Yeah.
haven't hit that yet. And it's funny because I remember the story of you saying to me how the process was that you were going to meet Ivy and
Yeah.
that whole thing. And I've had somebody do something similar and tell me sort of how that looks.
Yeah.
And it's just it like nothing seems to be working in my world now. But I know that I have like it's gonna sound stupid to say, but I have my workouts every day. Like
Yeah.
if that point in time that I didn't have the app on for a while, I felt lost because I'm like, okay, I can't use my app. Like, why is the app's not working? Maybe it's a crutch, but it's more than that now. It's a lifestyle, and I think even once everything does settle down, I'm still again I'm super curious to see what that 2.0 looks like. It's like you. It's like you're in your 2.0 right now. And I'm super
Yeah.
curious to see what that's going to look like and how that's going to be and who I'm going to be with and like where I'm going to geographically land. Because right now, if you look at a map, I live on the downtown east side. You know what that's
Okay.
like.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not, it's not a good location at all.
Yeah.
And the building's safe, the people are great in the building, but you walk outside, Like I can't have my kids living in a neighborhood where they're scared to go walk down the street.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's say it's not even fight or flight right now. It's that patience that I have to draw back on, and I
Yeah.
have to not be. I have to just find that patience with everything in my life. And I know my workouts are there. I know how to eat the food. I know how to do this. And those are the things that I can control right now. And that's what's the most important, to keep myself healthy as possible, and as level-headed as possible. Because if I get sick, I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah. So that
No,
you
I
that
won't function at all for anything.
yeah, so that anchor point basically, right? Like that northern light, however you want to call it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm again, I feel I guess blessed and lucky that we get to be that for you in these moments. And again, there's always a spot for you whenever you're ready. So no pressure on that. You can send the alumni as long as you want. You come back whenever you want. No pressure. And I just want to see you. And I told you this from the first day we met, right? Like I just want the best for you, and I just want to see you win. You're such an incredible person. And again, it's been especially having this conversation with you today. It's been beautiful to see like your progression of like how you deal with life and how you perceive life and how you deal with things. It's changed tremendously from that first conversation
Oh,
in the coffee
100%.
shop.
And
And so,
it's corny to say, but it's just God, the thought's gone out of my head now, but it's something that's just routine for me. And it's something, as I said, it's like family. It's not something
yeah,
I'm willing to give up.
yeah,
Doesn't matter, I don't think, whatever the age is, whatever your capabilities are, it's not ever going to be something that's not going to be in my life. And it's not because it's something that I absolutely have to have. It's no, it's family. I always
yeah,
know that there's going to be a safe space there. And
yeah,
it's
yeah,
not it's not intimidating, and it's not sort of put pressure on you for what does this look like or what does that look like. It's yeah, it's something that gives me safe, like a safe space. And
yeah,
I wouldn't have said that 4 almost 5 years ago at all. I was totally different back then. It's weird.
yeah.
So
I know you were different. You're
yeah.
feisty on our first call. I
Yeah,
remember.
yeah, I totally remember that like it was yesterday.
Yeah,
But it's just it's more than just a body transformation. And again, that's corny, but it's more it's a mindset transformation, and it's a thought process that, and it's one that stays with you.
yeah.
If you really put the effort into it, it's one that stays with you.
And that's what I'm trying to illustrate to people is as much as it's called fit vegan coaching, it's about a lot more than just training and nutrition, right?
Yeah.
And the people that are outside the program don't understand that, but the people that are inside the program understand that because they jump on the call, they see the types of conversation we have, they see how we handle life happening, right, in different situations. Um, so I'd love to ask you one last question, a piece of advice for people that are about to end the program or that are out of the program now and are kind of looking to navigate things. What is some of the tools that have been the most helpful for you?
I think maybe I'll talk to tools in a second, but I think the biggest thing that I think is the most important that maybe some people wouldn't consider right at the time, like that they're coming to an end, is look back and reflect on what your journey's been like. So it's going to be different for absolutely every single individual.
Yeah.
Like I remember starting the program with James in England, and I remember him like,
I'm trying to have him back on the show, by the way.
oh,
Um,
you
I'm
totally
I'm
should.
I'm I'm messaging with him on WhatsApp. He runs
Yeah,
marathons now.
I
Like
know. But
James did not run marathons when we first started
no.
working with him.
But I remember the very first call I was on, and it was the video call, and you were there, and he's like, "Look, I got these man boobies," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" I'm like, "I love you. We're good.
he's
We're so
he's the
good."
best.
And
Yeah.
so I think, when I reflect back on, and I'm still friends with James, and we still talk,
Yeah.
and I think it's important to reflect back on recognizing the challenges and the successes that you've had in your journey from day one, and all those calls that you just want to break down and cry on. But then all the successes that you have, and it's like, look at that and be like, yeah, okay, I got this. It might feel really uncomfortable to be ending this program, but I think that would be one tool to use is look, like, be reflective.
Hmm.
Purposefully look at where your milestones have hit and how you've created those and where you've come from to where you've been to. And you still may not be perfect now, but that toolbox is so much more informed now than it was, say, a year ago or 6 months ago. Even if
Yeah.
somebody halfway through the program is like, oh, this isn't for me and I can't do this, you still made it progression. And there's nothing wrong with having a call with one of the coaches and being like, hey, let's reevaluate this. How can we make it how can we make it even more purposeful, even more intentional for the next 6 months to really see where you want to hit? Um, but yeah, I think the mindset and the thought process, and it's like a diary. Like my 6 year old gave me a diary for my birthday, and she's like, Mom, you got to write down your feelings. And I'm like, You're 6. And she's like, Yeah, you need to write down your feelings. And I now write a diary. And I think even when we
Yeah.
started, you're like, Sarah's even like, start writing a diary. And I'm like, oh, a diary. But I look back on it and I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I'm doing this for a reason. It's the same thing for this program. You're doing this for a reason. You've done it for a reason. Look at where you are now. You wouldn't have been like this a month ago or 2 years ago or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
It's a total transformation. And again, that's weird to say because that's like one thing that you stick with, but it is a blueprint and it's a total transformation, and it's not just one or two pillars.
Yeah.
Look at everything in your toolbox, your mindset, how you eat, how you approach food, how much forgiveness you give yourself, and then look at how that's changed and developed. So it's
Yeah. I appreciate you saying that because I can say it all I want, but I'm the guy that started it. So it's it's better to hear it from people that have been through it, right? That
yeah,
actually live, that continue to live this lifestyle after the program, right?
yeah, 100%.
Um, yeah. So no, Tish, I really say I really appreciate you for, for being so open and authentic, and help people really sense, how much of a shift that you've made. And I'm just excited for you. Like I said, honestly, this is the beginning of the journey, because when we met, I was saying it's the beginning of the journey, but we're still on this beautiful journey, and I'm excited for you to just get to that place where, like, I understand what Maxim was talking about now. Like, this is the moment where I can feel it, right? I'm excited for you, and yeah, again, whenever you're ready, come back, and then maybe I'm trying to think of doing a podcast with like a few people. So maybe having like you and James and like maybe like a Darcy or
Yeah, I was
something
just gonna say
would be a
Darcy
fun
as well. Yep.
a fun podcast to have. I think I messaged with Neha a few months ago as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, James, because for the people listening who know who James is, amazing guy. First call I had with him, he was in the UK wearing like one of those, like, I don't say it was an ugly Christmas sweater, but kind of like that vibe to it with a Christmas tree in the background.
Yep.
And he's like, I'm trying to get rid of Gertrude. I was like, who's Gertrude? And he grabs his belly and he's like, Gertrude right here. And he did. He got like a little ab outline, and again,
Yep.
complete changed trajectory of his life, because now he's like running marathon. Like, he would have never done that when we first met.
No, no, not at all. As I said, it was the man boobies, and I was like, okay, we can just talk freely now. We are good. We are friends for life. Yep, you're
Yeah,
good.
he's awesome. We I had in Seattle for the Planted Expo when I had my first speaking engagement there. I flew in Sarah, I flew in Nick, so I had a few people at the booth, and I saw James on Instagram that he was running his race. So Sarah and I filmed him a little video because we were together
Yeah.
for him. And yeah, he was super happy.
Aw.
Uh, yeah, I
Yeah,
would
I
love to
think
meet him in person one day.
I'm trying to go to London, England in the next couple months, and if I do, I'm gonna like totally look him up because we still
Yeah,
do
take a photo
talk.
with him. Just say hi.
Yeah, we still do talk. So yeah, so
Yeah, not it, and that's what I love too about the program, is like the small communities that build and how people stay connected after. Like, to me, that's amazing. I still stay in touch with Darcy and a few people
mhm.
that we've met throughout the years. But um, Yeah, awesome. I know you're at work. I have to go record for Facebook, but Tish, I want to say a massive thank you for taking the time to jump on the show. Everyone listening, hope you enjoyed the conversation. I'm trying to have more in depth conversations with people versus kind of like, oh, you lost 20 pounds and you built muscle, great. But
Yeah.
there's so much more to a transformation than that, and I want people to understand that. And so, yeah, if you guys enjoyed the episode, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're listening on audio, just follow the podcast and leave a 5-star review because we're doing good work here. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.
Thanks.